Next up, keeping the modern workplace secure. And we're going to talk about the edge and securing the edge. And David Koerner is here. He's the senior SASE product specialist from Palo Alto Networks. He has been focused on security and securing the edge for quite some time. He's an expert resource for the Palo Alto sales team, value-added resellers, and companies who are looking to determine if SASE adoption makes sense for them. At Palo Alto, David has been involved in the SASE sales enablement, the go-to-market strategy, product features request, as well as pricing strategies. You might want to talk to him about that after the webinar today. Aside from several industry networking certifications, David holds degrees from Utah State University and the University of Florida. He currently resides with his wife and children in the Salt Lake City area. So David, thank you so much for joining us. The floor is yours.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, good to be with everybody. And if people need to step away for a bio break or whatever, hopefully we can just keep this thing rolling, right? And
absolutely. And I will say we're going to take a break when you're done, so you're standing between people in a break.
Gotcha.
No, I'm kidding.
Right.
We are taking a break when you wrap, but if you do need to take a break now, feel free. We're going to keep rolling.
Yeah, great. Yeah, for the last year at Palo, I've been supporting all of our commercial selling teams in the western half of the U.S. So just mentorship, coaching, strategy, general product specialists around SASE and securing our mobile workforce. Okay, everybody seeing my share?
Yep, we've got it.
Perfect. Okay. So yeah, what I'm going to really focus on here is securing our mobile workforce. That's it's inevitable. Most firms out there, need to empower their mobile workforce. Gone are the days where we can put everyone behind a firewall at a corporate office or a branch office and keep them nice and safe and secure and using, private applications and private servers. We have a new world, and it's a lot of SaaS apps. People need to access the internet. Folks need to get to AWS, Azure, et cetera. And so the threat landscape has really increased, yet we need to really empower these people to be productive and also be secure. So that's what I'm going to focus on. Part of our answer there is SASE. Some of these slides might infer, Palo Alto's advantage, but really my 35 minutes is not meant to be a commercial, but more educational on trends and technologies and what's happening in this area. So I'm going to try to do minimal selling here and more educating. The mobile workforce is here to stay. These are some interesting stats, but about 3/4 of businesses have a permanent hybrid work model now. Obviously, the pandemic drove a lot of this. But it's here to stay. And over 3/4 of CFOs say that they plan to either maintain or increase those investments, not pull back on them. And then finally, a lot of organizations are very interested in AI to enhance their security and their automation and tighten their overall security posture and understand more insights about where their vulnerabilities are, what's happening, because human eyeballs alone cannot stay on top of this anymore in the world that we live in. So first, let's define what SASE is. According to Gartner and most of the other consultants and advisors in the industry, SASE is really bringing together cloud-delivered security, which encompasses things like ZTNA, firewall as a service, secure web gateway, CASB, DLP, et cetera. Like all of the things to secure our private data centers, our SaaS apps, and our public data centers. So that's the security piece. And then SD-WAN is really the networking piece. That's your next generation routers. That's your edge. And it's more intelligent than it's ever been. It's app aware, and it has the ability to work hand in hand with our security. And there's a lot of advantages that we'll cover in a moment when they are aware of each other and can integrate together rather than being in separate silos. And then the puzzle piece at the top ADEM stands for Autonomous Digital Experience Management, which is really a mouthful, but really it just means understanding the experience of our users, our remote users and our branch users, understanding the security threats in real time, understanding how every application is performing at every segment. This is something we didn't have a lot of visibility into even 5 or 10 years ago. If a remote user was having a Wi-Fi issue or router issue or CPU utilization issue or ISP issue, we didn't have a lot of insight into that. And now we do, and it's all integrated into a single platform. So that's how we would define SASE. So we've got to really enable and empower, but really secure this mobile workforce that we have. We'd love it if people came into the office. Some companies are mandating that. I see headlines that more and more companies are mandating they spend at least some time in the office. And I think there's, social and even psychological benefits, of having that teamwork and that chemistry. But even to compete for talent, we now are finding that we have to give people the enablement and empowerment to work remotely and be more productive. And also it's viewed as a perk, right? And your best talent wants that flexibility. Yet there's a lot of threats out there for mobile workers. So we'll talk about some of those. So this, we at Palo Alto, we define it the same way Gartner does. SASE is cloud delivered security, integrated edge networking or SD-WAN, and then AI powered insights to understand in real time security and application performance. A couple more trends that we're seeing, and this one from Gartner here. In 2021, only 20% or 1 out of 5 firms were talking about adopting a SASE strategy. Within a couple of years, that number is going to be 80%. So this is a really fast growing area in the security space. And it makes sense why. Because of cloud transformation and mobile workforce, there's just really no way a traditional security architecture can provide us airtight security posture. I've underlined what I thought was relevant here in this slide. Again, this one from Gartner. Security and risk management leaders should build a migration plan from legacy perimeter and hardware-centric offerings to a SASE architecture. Now, I agree with that for the most part. I would also argue that if you are regionalized, if you are small, then having a data center, an HQ, a hardware firewall with VPN users can still be a legitimate and cost-effective solution. And SASE may not fit every single organization out there today. But for larger organizations that are diverse, that are national, that are international, and that are really robust, increasingly SASE can help them really secure and give the best possible performance to their users. This is just a snapshot of what's happening at our company. So for those familiar with Palo Alto, since about 2004, we've been known as a firewall company, right? We introduced the first next generation firewall that was really a layer 7 true application centric firewall. But we're only seeing over the last couple of years now and going forward about 10% year-over-year growth in firewall sales. So this just gives you a picture of where the growth is here. On the other hand, in the blue, we are seeing, and this slide's been out for a year and a half, and it's unfolding exactly how it was predicted. We're seeing about 300% growth in the total addressable market, or TAM, for SASE. So that's really where the explosion is. And a lot of that has, again, due to the events set in motion by the pandemic and the trends that continue to follow the pandemic with mobile workforce and the abilities and technology that we're able to give our mobile workers. So the next question then is, if we're going to have a mobile workforce, is which is better, a best of breed approach or a platform approach? And in a survey of security executives, over 3/4 of them believe that it's critical to reduce the number of security solutions and services that they use. So when there's too many silos, too many management portals, too many products, trying to correlate SOC information for too many solutions, it actually degrades their ability to keep their enterprise secure. And Gartner has something to say about that too when it comes to SASE. I thought this was really interesting. This is a really new report, came out in August. So this is saying from mid 23, so a couple months ago, right, until 2025, there's going to be a 50% increase in the number of vendors with generally available single vendor SASE offerings. So everyone is hopping into the game. Everybody, even companies you've never heard of before have a single vendor SASE offering now. Everyone is jumping in. Now there's going to be a weeding out process over the next few years. There's going to be consolidation. There's going to be acquisitions. There's going to be folks that aren't able to climb into that top 3 or 4 or 5 in market share and shut their doors or get acquired. That's always how it works with a new technology. But everyone's jumping into the game right now. But by 2026, 60% of new SD-WAN purchases from customers will be part of a single vendor SASE offering. So that tells us that customers see value in a vendor who can do everything and do it well. Best of breed approach is great. To go single vendor is not great if you're compromising on best of breed. And so the goal is, you've got to really do everything well. Now, if we look just on the left here, and we talk about our company's SASE offerings, we can potentially replace a lot of different point products with a single platform. And we do it. Our philosophy on this is we still are going to do it in hardware with hardware firewalls, and we're going to do it with cloud delivered security. And that security stack is going to be exactly the same. So whether you're consuming from the cloud or whether you're consuming from a hardware platform, a hardware firewall, or maybe you're a hybrid. Maybe you have some hardware firewalls, but you've got a mobile, ZTNA remote access solution that's cloud delivered. So you're sort of a hybrid. You've got some hardware and some cloud. It's going to still be single portal, single policy, exact same features, exact same capabilities. That's something that's been very important to us from the beginning. We have other products like endpoint protection. You've got companies, Cisco. You've got CrowdStrike and others that are in that game too. We're in that game with endpoint protection. When you talk about endpoint protection, we used to all sit in an office or a branch or a corporate headquarters behind a data center, and then if we were remote, we'd go through a VPN concentrator. This kept us secure. If we say, and I've run into a lot of customers that have said, look, with good endpoint protection and MFA, we feel like we're secure enough. The problem is you've got homework or coffee shop, somebody at the airport. We're connecting to the internet, we're connecting to SaaS apps, we're connecting to cloud apps, we're connecting to data center. The attack surface just explodes. And it's been shown time after time that endpoint protection plus MFA and nothing else is not enough. It's simply not enough. You've got to put the equivalent of a firewall between every user and everything that they're accessing. And that's what SASE does. That's what ZTNA does. It's another layer on top of endpoint protection, on top of MFA, that does continuous inspection and continuous authentication and verification, and essentially puts a firewall between every user, every branch, and everything that they're accessing. So let me go back a little bit here. We used to say at Palo, hey, we're unique because when it comes to threat stopping effectiveness or our security, we'll just call it our security stack. Our code that stops threats. We're a leader. We are the leader if you look at it, right? When you look at ZTNA, we're in the right quadrant here with a couple other players, but we're a leader. We're in that leaders quadrant. When it comes to SD-WAN, we're in a kind of a crowded field, but we're a leader. But we're the only ones that can say that we're a leader in all three. In fact, only one other company can say they're a leader in 2 of the 3. And so that we thought that was a good story. And then last month was kind of a mic drop moment for us, and we got excited. You can imagine why, because Gartner released a new Magic Quadrant for single vendor SASE, and we were the only leader. And so I say that not as so much as a commercial, but to say that we do have some credibility here when we're talking about how to really build and design a single vendor SASE solution with ZTNA, with CASB, with threat protection, continuous inspection, continuous authentication, SD-WAN, CASB, monitoring, et cetera, et cetera. We've put it all into one platform, and it's paying off for us. So what are the advantages of having a single vendor rather than three different silos? Because there are companies out there. We compete with a big ZTNA competitor that they don't make firewalls. They don't make SD-WAN. They just do ZTNA, and they've done it for a long time. So if you go with that product, and they're good company and good folks over there, but you're choosing a different SD-WAN product, you're choosing a different firewall product, and you've got kind of three silos that you're managing. So what are the advantages of having a single vendor SASE solution? And I've kind of boiled them down to about 5 here. First of all, you've got a single management portal. You've got native integrations for deployment and configs. Your time to stand it up is a fraction of what it would be if you're dealing with 3 different separate solutions. Number 2, you've got native automations and enhanced interoperability between security, networking, and digital experience management. It's all built in, and they all talk to each other, and it's correlated data. So these correlated insights are for security incidents, but they're also for app performance, and they're also for network performance. So everything is correlated, and it's all in one place. And so, this network outage is resulting in these apps performing this way, and coincidentally, it's causing a security vulnerability. Like, to have all of that stuff correlated in one place is pretty unique. We haven't really had that before when you look back in years past. Another advantage of single vendor SASE is, you've got consistent user policy and app policy across all your branches and all your remote users. So we talk about hybrid users. Hybrid users are at home on Monday, and then they're in the branch on Tuesday. We would expect that their access is exactly the same. Their policy, what they're allowed to have access to, and what they're able to do is exactly the same, whether they're at home or whether they're sitting at a branch. Now, that branch might be connected via ZTNA to a cloud security, or it might have a hardware firewall. We don't care. It doesn't matter, because, like I said, with a single vendor solution, the policy, whether it's hardware or whether it's cloud delivered, and capabilities and features are identical, and it's managed in one place. So it simply doesn't matter where they are. That brings us administrative simplicity, and it gives users a better experience because they have consistency. They know what to expect. Everything works the same no matter where they're at. So let's talk about some other problems that SASE addresses. So we've covered the we've covered the attack surface when we try to go direct with only endpoint protection and MFA. So let's talk about, how are we really putting firewall, or the equivalent of firewall protection, between every user and everything they access. And to understand that, I'll briefly just describe the difference between legacy ZTNA, which started in about 2010, and today's ZTNA, which we call ZTNA 2.0. So the industry first tried to solve this, and this is about 2010. We were all jamming to Gangnam Style back in 2010, or at least my kids were. By taking this remote user and giving them a client on their corporate device, and they go up to a proxy or an access broker, which authenticates them and then grants them access to certain applications. All right, so this is better than just going direct, right? We all agree it's an improvement. The problem is, once they're authenticated and connect to the app, that proxy or that access broker drops out of the flow, and there's no ongoing inspection and ongoing authentication and verification of that user ID. And that's where we've seen time after time problems and vulnerabilities happen. Okay, so ZTNA 1.0 fell short as far as being able to stay with the duration of the flow for every user and every app. So this was sort of an archaic thing, an archaic way of doing things, but it was an improvement on just simply going direct. One of the other issues that we saw was ZTNA 1.0 that we wanted to make sure we addressed and overcame with ZTNA 2.0 is what we call a commingled data plane. So back in 2010, it was really expensive to do ZTNA at hyperscale with a GCP or an AWS or something like that. And so the ZTNA vendors at that time built their own colos with their own infrastructure and connected those colos over the internet. And there were shared compute resources and shared circuits among tenants. In fact, dozens of tenants could potentially share a single IP address, which could cause whitelisting or blacklisting problems. If it's Black Friday weekend and you're a tenant sharing compute resources with a retailer, you might see performance degradation. And so when Palo jumped into the game, and this wasn't until 2017, so ZTNA, gets that term gets coined in 2010. It's 7 years later that Palo jumps into the game with ZTNA 2.0. And we look forward, and thankfully our leaders and our CTO and our visionaries said, this is going to have to be done at hyperscale to be done right. So we partnered with GCP and AWS, and we made sure that every tenant had their own dedicated data plane, their own dedicated IP address, and we're able to leverage Google. Here we go. We're able to leverage Google's fiber backbone globally. These are 100 gig to 400 gig circuits. They're undersubscribed, not oversubscribed, and this allows us to get around the country, around the continent, or around the globe faster with fewer hops than if we were using tunneled encrypted tunnels over the internet. This is a private fiber global network. And so we're also able to leverage about 120 primarily GCP POPs, but there are some AWS POPs in areas where we couldn't get GCP. But we're able to leverage those POPs to provide about 120 connection points or on-ramps around the world, and then you're onto that fiber, that Google's fiber superhighway there. So that's a remote access solution that we designed, and it's just a different cloud architecture than having colos built with your own infrastructure. It's hyperscale, it's elastic, it's 5 nines. So we built ours a little bit differently. And so to boil down, if I were to just to say 5 differences between the kind of the original legacy ZTNA 1.0 and ZTNA 2.0, it would be these 5 right here. First, least privilege access. We found that the ZTNA 1.0 solutions were giving too much access to people who didn't need it. And so we designed policies and we designed a solution that gave only the access that was necessary to do someone's role. Someone in sales does not need access to anything in accounting, to anything the executives would need, to anything in IT, right? Least privilege access. Also, we saw this allow and ignore concept where we would authenticate a user, and then from that point, we ignore what happens after that. And ZTNA 2.0 uses a continuous trust verification model. So we don't just open a gate with a key and then give a user free reign. We're continually checking the token of their user ID, app ID, and device ID throughout the duration of the entire flow. Well, got a little crazy with my mouse there. Number 3, continuous security inspection. We're using AI and ML and all of our patented technologies and security inspecting features that we've developed over the last 15 years through the duration of the flow, instead of just authenticating using basic 20-year-old firewall technology and letting that flow happen without continuous inspection. So there's more inspection happening in ZTNA 2.0 than was happening on ZTNA 1.0. Also, ZTNA 1.0 cannot protect all data in both directions. things like dynamic ports. There's a list of things that it just can't protect. And it can't protect all apps, and ZTNA 2.0 does that. So you see that with the continuous verification, we're looking at the token of this user ID, app ID, and device ID through the duration of the flow. And then we are applying advanced threat protection, SASE security or CASB, data loss prevention. Wildfire is looking for brand new threats that we've never seen before, analyzing them to see if they're benign or if they're malicious, and writing signatures for them, typically in single-digit seconds. No one else can say that, and protecting you from those threats. DNS security is in there. URL security is in there. It's all happening for the duration of the flow. And that's whether it's going to a private data center, whether it's going to the internet, whether it's going to a cloud data center, whether it's going to SaaS. It doesn't matter the destination. All of the data is protected, verified, and inspected all of the time, period. That's ZTNA 2.0. Quick use cases, and I'm going to stay focused on mobile users, not branches, because the theme here is protecting our mobile workforce. I could talk about SD-WAN and talk about branches. That could be a follow-up session if anyone else is interested. I'm going to stay focused on mobile users. So let's say we've got a user on the East Coast in New York. That user with an agent or client, we call it Global Protect in our world, running on their Mac or Windows or Linux or whatever, iOS, Android, Chromebook, we've got it for just about every major operating system, will establish within about 5 seconds of having network access, will establish an IPsec tunnel, to an encrypted tunnel to the nearest POP. It'll auto sense the best performing nearest POP. Again, we got about 120 around the globe. And it will establish that tunnel, and at that POP, the full security stack, the exact stack you would find on a Palo Alto next generation firewall, identical, every feature, every capability, everything resides there. And that's where you get your deep and ongoing inspection, your authentication, your verification. And from that point can go safely out to the internet with DNS and URL security, can go safely out to SaaS apps with CASB and DLP security, can go to your Azure, AWS, et cetera, or can traverse what we call service connection. So let's say you've got Azure West, or you've got maybe you've got a data center or colo in Las Vegas or Phoenix or Austin, right? We can establish a service connection. Don't think we have a POP in Austin. I think it's in Dallas, actually. So from our Dallas POP to your Austin data center, we would create a service connection, probably at least 1 gig. And so that user, if policy allowed them, could traverse that service connection and access application servers and data at your Austin data center safely and retrieve that. So wherever they're going, web, SaaS, public cloud, private data center, you've got essentially a full firewall sitting between that user and the rest of the world, in addition to their endpoint protection, their MFA. So that's real security. That's real security that really no one else can bring to the table, and it can give you real peace of mind that your security posture is ready for the future. One other thing of interest, and can you give me just a quick, Jeff, can you give me a quick time check? Don't want to go over.
Yeah, you got about 10 minutes, David.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
And if you want to leave time for Q&A, then you've got less, but 10 minutes total.
Yeah, it's a good idea. So I'm going to talk to you about something that not many people at Palo Alto even know much about yet in the sales teams, but we made an acquisition. And it was pretty interesting when we made it, raised some eyebrows. I thought, okay, that's, you wonder how we're going to work that into our portfolio. We acquired a company called Zicada. And this is a company that used app-aware acceleration to reduce packet loss and to accelerate downloads. And the way they do it, we've got slides on how they do it. And quite honestly, I probably couldn't even explain it very well. We'd probably need a senior level engineer to explain it. But it's really cool technology. And what it does is it reduces packet loss by nearly 300%. And it can increase download time by up to 700% with no code changes and no compromise to security. And so as an example, let's take this file share right here. The gray represents doing this direct. So just, no ZTNA solution, right? Just direct to a server. You can see that with Prisma Access, which is our ZTNA solution, there is some overhead over doing a direct download, because again, we're doing IPsec, we're doing encryption and inspection and authentication and all of those things. So there's a little bit of overhead there, right? It adds some time to that download. That's one reason in the past people have said, I don't know if I'm ready for ZTNA. We've already got people complaining about performance. But with Prisma Access and then Zicada, which we have integrated now into Prisma Access, and the first release of Prisma Access that will include Zicada comes out in about 60 days. So we're talking futures here. This is not generally available today, but it will be by the end of this year. Prisma Access plus Zicada, you can see that you're faster than if it were a direct connection. Google Drive, AWS, Box. So you're actually, by implementing ZTNA with Zicada, you're actually faster than a direct connection. It's even more pronounced when you look at unified communications like WebEx or Zoom. Direct connection, latency, and then the orange is Prisma Access with Zicada appware acceleration. So not only are you getting far better, tighter security for your mobile workforce, you're actually increasing their performance dramatically. So you're killing two birds with one stone now. And so we believe this will be a real differentiator. We believe others may try to hop on this bandwagon and build some app acceleration into their ZTNA platforms as well. But we've been the first ones to really do this. And again, I give credit to some of the people that lead the company that were really visionaries here. People don't want to slow down their applications to improve their security. You've got network team folks and security folks kind of butting heads sometimes, saying, and I need more speed, I need more performance. And the security folks saying, we need better security. And we're really giving you the best of both worlds here. So one more example is Salesforce, again, direct performance, and then the accelerated performance with Prisma Access and Zicada. So that's exciting. I'm going to hit one more area, and then I'm going to open up some Q&A. The sort of the summary here is, a cloud architecture built on hyperscale with 5 nines reliability, the lowest latency in the industry, and the only SaaS SLAs in the industry. And we actually have a list of, for Salesforce, Office 365, G Suite, of what those SLAs are using Prisma Access. We actually have binding SLAs, and we will pay you back if we don't meet them. So pretty interesting. So let's skip ahead a little bit. Well, I can't resist. I've got to hit this slide because no one else touches these numbers. Every day we analyze 3.5 billion new and unique. That's the key. New and unique events. Now, some of these are benign, but 275,000 of them are actually malicious, new and unique attacks. Imagine that. 275,000 brand new and unique attacks every day that we detect. If you add those previously unknown attacks with all of the already known attacks that we routinely block every day, it comes to about 5 billion attacks that we block every single day, or that we help our customers block. So let's skip ahead here. One more area I want to hit, this is AI-powered operations. So not enough time really for any kind of a demo spent here, but I'll just really kind of whet the appetite. And if anyone would like a follow-up on this, we're always happy to do that. So when you've got fragmented architectures, you've got someone's firewall, someone else's VPN, someone else's ZTNA, makes it really hard to have to really track what's going on and correlate that data as far as performance, security events, et cetera. And so with a single vendor SASE provider, you've got maximum observability of all of these events, because we've got eyes on the corporate device through the client that sits on that Mac or Windows device, whatever, through Prisma Access. We can see Wi-Fi latency at their home. We can see what their ISP is doing for the home user, how their CPU or memory how full their memory is, how full their hard drive is. It's always funny when a user says everything's running slow for me and their hard drive's 99% full, and they don't realize why that would slow them down. We have eyes on all of that, and we also have eyes on how Zoom is performing, how ADP or Workday, or how a server with Office 365 is performing. We've got eyes on all of it through Prisma Access and through the client. And so we can provide insights on every user, every application, every branch, and every security incident. And this is what that looks like. And I'm just going to take you through a piece of this for time's sake. See, I can actually see from this particular POP in SoCal where my remote users are sitting and which ones may be affected by an application degradation issue. So let me just roll through here. I see how all my apps are performing for my remote users. And let's say I've got an issue with Slack. How is Slack performing in my network? Slack has a poor experience score of 27 out of 100, and it's impacting 400 users. Okay, what is causing Slack's poor performance? There are 3 segments impacted. Device issues seem to be impacting all 40 users. So 400 users are having a bad experience with Slack. Now this is a network with 67,000 users. Some of them have some Wi-Fi degradation. Some of them have poor ISP performance, but all of them seem to have a device issue. Why would 400 people have a device issue? Okay, why are devices causing poor Slack performance? This is artificial intelligence giving you these insights. It has been observed that there has been sustained high CPU utilizations since 9 a.m. Pacific. This is most likely due to an OS upgrade initiated at 8:45 a.m. on Windows 10 version. So there's a Windows update going out for older Windows versions, right? This upgrade was initiated on exactly 400 user devices connecting from US East and US Central. So there was an update that was a bandwidth hog and a CPU hog that got pushed out to 400 users. Okay, are there other devices scheduled for upgrade? That would be my next question, right? 69,000 devices are running older versions of Windows and are likely to be upgraded. So now you have a heads up, and you could potentially, change your strategy of how these upgrades happen, knowing that they're taking such a hit on a lot of these CPUs and causing poor performance for your users. And you can circumvent a lot of user complaints and trouble tickets, et cetera, by knowing what is coming. So that's one example. Final example, I received a ticket for degraded experience on a branch site. Please provide more details. Okay, so you've got degradation on a circuit at a branch site. Why is a configured active path having a degraded experience? The system comes back and tells me high latency has been observed on the 3rd hop of the Verizon circuit. Okay, so now you know exactly what segment you've got degradation on a circuit. The system actually will draft a email to the Verizon team for you with the evidence or with the data of this particular hop or segment having degradation. It says, would you like to send this, or do you want to edit it first? And you can go ahead and edit it, clean it up, send it to Verizon. Please send this email and get them working on that segment where you're detecting degradation. So it really looks at every segment, every application, every user, every branch. So you can also take this. It's not just app performance. AI Ops gives you a breakdown of security threats and vulnerabilities, et cetera. Can't go deep into this because of time. I think we're just about out, but hopefully that shows just a glimpse of the power of what we can do when we have a single vendor SASE solution providing both network and security delivered from the cloud, and what type of observability and insights we can provide at a glance to give your administrators maximum power to remediate issues very quickly or detect issues before they really even happen. That's what AI Ops can do. So it's very powerful. I'm going to stop there. I think maybe I've got 3 or 4 minutes for Q&A. I can stop sharing here. Any questions about any of that? I know we covered a lot of ground. really
We did
quickly.
cover a lot of ground, David, you know, as I'm looking at the questions you covered, you hit on most of them later in your presentation. You know, there was a question about overhead and latency by putting ZTNA 2.0 in the midst. The Zicada solves that and
Yeah.
addresses that and makes it even better. Um, one question that I've asked all of our participants that I would love to toss your way, David, is what's one thing our listeners should take away from your presentation and an action that they should do related to that, an action they should take?
Yeah. You know, I think the action would just be to, you know, take a look at the mobile workforce. What technologies are they using today to be protected? And I would assume that most everyone has endpoint protection and most everyone is employed MFA. Um, but is there a true firewall security stack between your users, your remote users and remote branches, and all of the applications, internet, cloud apps, et cetera, that they're accessing? And if not, what is the strategy to really build up that security posture with that ongoing, deep and ongoing inspection and ongoing verification of the user? There are more companies than just Palo Alto that provide answers and solutions for that. There was a race really to see who can provide all of those things in one, package first. And I think that Gartner slide showing us as the sole leader in the single vendor SASE space shows that we have won the race for now. We can't be complacent, but there's other good products out there too. Again, not trying to just be a commercial here, but I listened really carefully to our first speaker, from the FBI, and that was really insightful. And the number of threats are really growing, and they're becoming more sophisticated. And if we're relying on yesterday's technology or endpoint alone, or we're backhauling and hairpinning everyone through the data center, our posture is probably not where it needs to be. And so, a ZTNA 2.0 solution can really help make that an airtight barrier for your organization. So that's one thing that I would look at and evaluate to see, is that in place or is that something that we need to be exploring?
David, I think that is great advice. Take a look at your endpoints, especially your mobile endpoints, and see what protection is in place today, and map out a plan for moving in the direction of ZTNA 2.0. David, thank you so much for carving out time to talk to us. I really appreciate it. Uh, Great content that I think everybody can leverage. Don't know if your deck might be available to send out afterwards, or I'm sure the recording will be. So
Yeah,
really appreciate the time today.
my pleasure. Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
All right, to our viewers, we have reached our break. We're going to start back up again at 2:45 Eastern. So depending on where you are in the country or the world, adjust your clocks accordingly, and we'll see you back here in 5 minutes. Thank you very much.